Welcome to the Crohn's Corner podcast, where shit sucks and I hate my guts. I am your host, Dom D'Agostino, aka the Crohn's father. It has been a minute. Have you missed me? This is episode 6, if you're counting. Let me just start off by saying I had surgery yesterday on my ass, and I'm on some meds, and my voice may be a little raspy, and I'm not feeling 100%, but like most Crohn's patients, we never do. So much has happened leading up to surgery, and August, aka the death month, and this podcast, this episode is sort of a life update. And even if you aren't a crony, this should be at the very least be entertaining. So I'm going to walk you through this last 10 months of this vortex of shit that I have just been enduring. I just feel compelled to share it, and if you just come along this ride with me and stay along with me, it will come back full circle, I promise. And this may or may not get emotional, but hey, I find power in vulnerability, and I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of self-discovery, among other things. Last 10 months there's been a breakup and a half. Probably the most stressful and prevalent things was getting a promotion for my day job, which ultimately happened in February. So I took on a new role, which was very exciting, but it came with more and different responsibilities, and it's something I want to be in. Like I'm an instructor now, I'm a teacher, so it's something that I want to be doing, and it's something that I enjoy doing, but it became very real and very fearful very quickly. Suddenly it's like this new reality, and in August I had to teach my first week-long class, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But so all of that, plus, I had some family issues going on. I had car issues. I was coaching my niece's flag football team. I'm also now coaching my son's soccer team. He's 3, so their 3 and 4-year-olds is basically herding cats. Not to mention my side gigs as DJing, weddings, and trivia. We've been potty training, and side note, my son is officially, we'll say 98.3% potty trained. And let me tell you, although it was a group effort, all the family was involved, it is my favorite feat. I feel it is my greatest achievement in this 30 years of young life so far. I'm very proud of the fact that he's potty trained now. So all of that and everything that's transpired over the last 10 months, I believe, has brought us here, and the perfect time to do an episode. So I often joke, and I think I've joked on or mentioned on here, that I have surgery every 6 to 8 months, it seems, on the same thing, and it's like insanity. But the last surgery I had, and the last time you heard from me, I believe, was in November. All of this vortex of shit that's going on, I can feel this pain creeping up, and I'm like, hey, I think it's time. Something's going on here. Wasn't super bothersome, also just too busy to even really, contact the doctor for real. But, yeah, so just, I have to share this my chart exchange because it was a Sunday afternoon, and I finally got around to messaging my doctor, and my subject line said, "It's about that time." And I said, "Hey guys, it's been, 6 months or so, feel something creeping up, I think we should probably look at it." And they responded within like 12 hours. Honestly, and my first thing Monday morning, they responded and said, "Hey Dom, we were just talking about you Friday, and that we haven't heard from you in a while." So it's sad that I get a kick out of that, but it's almost like they could just tell. Also, perfect time to do my podcast because maybe you've seen my semi-viral TikTok, which just put the icing on the cake for the month of August. But like anything, I use anything bad happening as good. But that's a little foreshadow. We'll get to that in a moment. But if you do want to look at the TikTok and maybe you're not driving or you want to check it out for later, bookmark it at the Dom Perignon on TikTok. It's also you've probably seen it on my Instagram as well, but no big deal. It's been at like 200,000 views. So yeah, I just had surgery. Like I said yesterday, they put another drain ceton in and made another incision. So I feel quite probed, if you will, but we're going to get through this podcast sitting down together. Anyways, let's back up a little bit. So part of that soul searching and self-discovery that I was mentioning, I've concluded a few things, and I'm still learning every day. It's one of my favorite quotes. Everyone is learning every day. And I think what I'm starting to understand clearer now than maybe it wasn't as clear before. People buy into brands, or people buy into companies, people buy into content, maybe not for the content, but for the person, perhaps like, the individual. And it is my belief, that my story, and especially this one, can resonate with anyone, particularly if you've been going through a tough time or have gone through a tough time, or maybe just need some entertainment value, or need to feel something like, hey, this dude's life sucks and mine's okay, hey, that's okay. But through this time, I've paid attention to who inspires me, and what matters to me, and what drives me, and I read or I listened to 2 audiobooks from Tim Grover, who was the trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe. And I also listened to David Goggins' book, and I listened to some of his interviews and things. And I think all of that's really had an effect on me when I can sit down and, like Kobe says, be still. I've sort of developed some of these mentalities, and I found myself challenging myself again. And with those types of mentalities, I've learned something about myself that I'm finally learning to accept at the surface, and it's that my obsession is having a global impact. And I mean that by, I want to help people, obviously, right? And I want to do that by selfishly some recognition, okay? So maybe it's through my podcast, or maybe it's through TikTok videos, or maybe I've invented something. Doesn't matter. It is my belief and my dream to develop a platform for myself to where I can then give back, okay, on a very large scale, all right? So that's what drives me, right? And I used to think something was wrong with me for thinking that way, but I hate to reference TikTok, but I watched a video, and it's like a little 7-second one, right? And this dude was like, I'm done denying my greatness. And I'm going to get to this later, but it's like, I'll get to that later. But so I'm following through with what I want to do, and some hurdles that come into the way and some resistance is imposter syndrome. And I think I've talked about it before on here, but imposter syndrome is so prevalent for this episode, and here's why. And eventually I will get a medical professional on here to talk about some of this stuff. Right now, I don't have the capacity to take all that in right now. But, so, initially doing this podcast, I put out a couple episodes, 4 or 5, and my immediate gratification is fulfilled because I'm going to read this quote from Rick Rubin. You are 100% successful as soon as you send your project off into the world, regardless of how it is perceived. So initially, I put those episodes out. I'm happy. I think I'm really doing this, right? I put my biggest vulnerabilities out there. And, I'm getting messages a few times a week, people telling me and opening up to me and sharing their stories. And, I would get texts from friends saying, how well it sounds and how good my podcast is, and I really got something here. And I tell myself that they're just my friends and they're just being nice and that they're just being encouraging, and it's not like real, right? So that's when the imposter syndrome comes in, and here's how I think it plays out, right? So I get the feedback and I look over the stats and I can see all these different countries that have tuned in and listened, and over 24 countries have tuned in to my podcast, and that's pretty freaking cool, right? And I've touched on denial on here as well on previous podcasts, but I actually said this out loud to someone. So sorry, I get fired up about this, right? Like, it makes me emotional. So, but my boss at my day job was like legitimately asking me about my podcast, and I sort of I was excited and I was explaining about all these different countries listening, and I had some momentum, but it was immediately followed by self-doubt. And I said this out loud, right after the country. I said, yeah, they're probably just bots. They're probably just bots listening to the podcast, and that's why my numbers are up. Not that they're great numbers, you know what I'm saying? That's the other thing. It's not like they're astronomical numbers. They're very basic numbers, right? And I know it's not going to happen overnight either, you know what I mean? So it's one day at a time, one podcast at a time. But I said out loud that they're just bots, and he was like, no, dude, that's probably people wanting to listen to your podcast. He was genuinely interested in the next one coming out, you know what I mean? So, but it's hard for me to actually believe that. And then more recently, right, I had an Uber ride, and this dude was super cool. I wish I could remember exactly what he said about greatness. He said something like, don't be scared of your great, something like, it was very prolific, but I had a couple of drinks. That's why I was Ubering. So when I make it, I hope he reaches out to me and he tells me what he says. But I was talking to him about we started talking about the podcast. He was a very chill dude, and he was he'd asked me what a successful podcast is to me. And I had talking to him, I mentioned the bots. And his response was so eye-opening to me, because he was like, bro, why would bots be tuning in and listening to you talk about your butts and guts and shit? And I was like, okay, dude, good point. So, and again, it's not, these numbers are very small, but to his question, he asked me what's my opinion of a successful podcast. And for me, that's difficult, right? Because I wanted this podcast just to provide an open space, a safe space. I want to inspire others, give somebody some confidence if they're dealing with invisible illnesses, or they have a bag, or maybe they're a younger person going through Crohn's disease, just got diagnosed. And of course it's therapeutic for me too, but I broke it down into 3 levels. The base level of my definition of a successful podcast is just having impact, not global, just an impact, helping somebody. So I was already exceeding that level of success, right? Because I was getting those messages, and I felt like I was helping more than one person, so that's very cool. My mid-level version or definition of a successful podcast is having a sponsored ad, and that's actually how I answered it. And I said, I think getting in sponsored ads, having someone pay me because they believe in my podcast, and they believe in my content, or they believe it's helping somebody. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, just a paid ad. I think that is success. And then my high level success, and this is what I have a difficult time saying out loud, because anybody who creates content, or I don't care who you are, if you have a social media account and you have a TikTok, you're posting that to the globe, with probably the hopes of going viral. And if you're not, you're lying to yourself. Some people just post some things, okay, whatever. But with my I want it all, man. I want to be in the top charts. I have a shoot for the moon mentality, but especially with a niche subject like Crohn's disease, I totally understand that that's not going to happen overnight. Something I strongly believe in is just starting, just doing it. That's why, none of these episodes are perfect, but I'll reference, I think it's been a Reddit post, or maybe you've seen like the Simpsons meme, like the first drawings of the Simpsons compared to now, and they were trash, and now they're like, they're like legit now or whatever, but when they started it was trash. But they just started, and now look at it. You know what I mean? It's like the longest running animation cartoon or whatever. I don't know, whatever, but don't quote me on that. But so I understand that I don't just put out a few episodes and it becomes an overnight success. I'm very conscious of that. But even with just a few episodes I put out, like I could see the path, I could see it working. It was everything that I believed in for the podcast was unfolding before my eyes. I was getting the recognition. I was getting the positive feedback. It was slow, but I understand that it's a process. But I think when you combine the imposter syndrome and then just the traditional self-doubt, like I got scared, and so I put it on the back burner. With just like the daily grind of being a busy single parent and a coach and working side gigs, and like I said, maybe not inventing something on the side. It's easy to get lost in the sauce, and I think that's what's kept me away from doing podcasts. I've just been lost in the sauce, and I've just been overwhelmed, and I sort of fell into a rut. Sort of been like caught into a cycle, and like I said, I'm sure a mental health professional would like to talk. Would like to mention like Crohn's and anxiety and depression and having a bag and a stoma and stuff like that. There's all kinds of facts that you would like to hear, but I don't have those in front of me, and that's a whole nother episode. In the pull myself up by the bootstraps mentality, that I have, and that, like I told you, like I've David Goggins, I feel like has been in my. If you don't know David Goggins, you should look it up. But he's been like in my subconscious, right? And I feel like I've been asking myself, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Who am I? Like, I expect so much more out of myself. Like I am destined for great things. I'm destined for greatness. Like, that's what I believe. I've always believed that. And I'm starting to wake back up, right? And follow that pursuit again. And part of that has been running. So like middle of July, I got a hair at my butt, and I started thinking back about David Goggins and my subconscious, and he's always talking about reprogramming your mind and calluses of the mind. And so I thought to myself, like, let's start running. And I hate running, right? I hate it. But I said to myself, if I can grow to obsess with it and add it to my repertoire, my routine, and my character, if you will, as a result, I will be able to break through these self barriers, right? So my biggest weakness is self-discipline. It always has been, right? It's been a crutch of mine. And so I'm like, I got to fix that lack of self-discipline. So I have been on a mission. I have set out on a mission to do just that. And I believe I've turned on a switch, and just being conscious of that mindset, I think helps. And it has a trickle-down effect, right? And I can start to see it happen. So I hurt my ankle for like a week or two, right? Because I think it was just because my body was like, dude, you're not used to running this much. What are you doing? We kind of hurt. So I had to take like a week and a half off or 2 weeks off, right? And through all this nonsense, right, I've kept up my running in August, and the death month, right? And mind you, I can only run when I don't have my son, which is a lot. But so I have to pick and choose when I can run. But it's getting to the point now where it's like, if I don't have him, if I have an opportunity to run, I'm running, which is awesome, right? And I've noticed, like, I've started to run against myself, and I've noticed the conversations in my head change from like, like I can't do it, I want to walk, to like one more mile, let's do 3 miles in under 30 minutes, like. And I'm battling with myself on these runs, and I keep telling myself, and the common denominator with myself is like, it is the belief that I will finish this. It is the belief that I will make it. So therefore I will. And so now I have like a new mindset, man. And I'm rebuilding this character of not who I want to become, but who I believe I already am. Right? And then so August hits, man, and it's just been the toughest time of my life, right? And I'm going to do my best to like not undersell this, right? This has been worse than my divorce, right? Shout out to my ex-wife. But so keep in mind, right? we're gonna go down this path of August, and mind you, I don't even feel 100% because I feel like this pain creeping up, right? And I knew I was due for surgery, but like I said, I just had too much going on, and we've talked about stress on here, about how much stress can affect the body and disease for that matter. But how stress can be so harmful, right? So it all makes sense why this is creeping up. And so I'm trying to paint this picture as best I can, right? So the second week of August, which is August 8th through the 12th, I had to teach my first week-long class. And just into perspective, like just to put into perspective for you, this is my mindset, okay, with my imposter syndrome at my day job, that I already believe that I don't belong there. And this week is big. Like I have to prove myself. I have to prove my worthiness of this promotion that I so desperately thought I deserved and needed. And don't get me wrong, my boss and my coworkers are very supportive and they would not let me fall on my face, right? Like they would, you know what I'm saying? But in my mind, it's all on the line here. Like everything's on the line here. Like if I screwed this up, if I fall on my face, like my cover is blown, like I am exposed. My imposter syndrome was just, it was taking over. And also the first week of August, my son, 3-year-old soccer starts, and I'm coaching it. And it's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8 p.m., which disrupts his routine, and it's late, and it adds and compounds for the next ensuing weeks. And I'm going to back up just a smidge, because this is really when the snowball starts to pick up for this death month of August. I can't help but just laugh about it. July 29th, it's a Friday, right? I go to my mail and I open it, which is weird because I don't always open my mail, right? I usually just chuck it into a stack and I'll open it later. But something came over me and I opened this letter, and it was from my car insurance company. We'll call it Company A, okay, for legal purposes, right? And I was sort of, I think I opened this letter because I was expecting good news. Right, because through all this nonsense, I had to get a new car to me. And my car insurance company was like, oh, cool. Hey, thanks for the update. By the way, it's going to be like $15 a month less than what you're paying now. I'm like, sweet, right? So I opened this letter thinking it's going to be like a confirmation of a lower bill. Nope. It was $55 more a month than what I was anticipating. So I'm like shocked. And it's a Friday. I'm like, dude, that's not cool. So I call the company, and they explain that I got a moving violation ticket 10 months ago. Okay, I ran a red light in November, and they decided to punish me now, right? And I was like, okay, well, I've been a customer for a while. I have a lot of accounts with you guys. Surely you can work with me here. Otherwise, I'm gonna shop around, because I simply cannot afford that, right? I'm a struggling single father as it is. They basically tell me to get lost. Dude was kind of an asshole, by the way, but I'm not gonna tell the company name. But if you check my Twitter, so I call Company B, who I like a lot. I had previously, before I went to Company A, and they welcomed me back with open arms, and they saved me $85 a month just by making the switch. Same coverage. They ask if I want to switch over my homeowner's insurance as well. And me, being the petty self I am, and I understand I'm just a drop in the bucket. I understand that one account lost is not going to affect, this multi-million-dollar company. But I said, let's go for it, right? So I log into my mortgage account to get my loan number, and I noticed that my next upcoming mortgage payment is $550 more than I'm already struggling to pay. My taxes were raised from $1,600 a year to $4,500 a year. And I guess I should have done my homework a long time ago, but so not to mention, I don't know about where you all live, but in my area, everyone's utility bills have skyrocketed. Most have doubled, some have tripled. Mine has been sort of in the middle of that. Again, I'm already a struggling father. And this is crazy, man. So I go into the weekend absolutely dead, flat. And I actually had to work that Friday night. And normally it was supposed to be with my father, but he left me hanging. I love you, Pop. But he left me hanging. Went out to California. I mean, granted, he was helping our family, whatever. But he had FaceTimed me right before I go in from the beach in California, bro. I was hot. I love you, Pop. But I was hot, dude. I was like, dude, my world is over here melting down in Ohio. I'm going to work alone, solo dolo. You're supposed to be here. You're not. And this is all a week before the most prolific week of my professional career, mind you, right? So that the following Monday, which is now August 1st, we're now 1 week away. I get my mail again, and I open it. And, okay, before I say this, I know it's different now, but in real time, I opened the letter, and it was student loan information saying that they're going to start back up in September, $260 a month. So you do the math. I do the math. I had to come up with like an extra $1,000, $1,200 a month just to live. Just to live, not including food for my son or me. So I make the decision to put my house on the market and downsize, which, it's been very difficult for me. All right. I love my neighbors. I love my neighborhood. The school district, even though it's sort of in shambles right now. I love the area. It's a new house. It was just built 2 years ago. There's no problems. I'm not a handyman, so if something goes wrong, I can't fix it. I got warranties for that stuff. The preschool is here. My son's soccer stuff is here. And my pride, right? My pride. And this is all happening a week before the biggest week of my professional career, and I cannot understand how much pressure I'm under. So, I plan to go into... I decided to put an offer in on a house on a Thursday. And I put the offer in on the house. It's contingent on my house selling. So I immediately had to put my house on the market. So that Saturday, that following Saturday, my offer was accepted. Since it was accepted, I immediately found a sitter for my son, which I felt horrible about. But I dropped him off and I went ham cleaning. I went to Home Depot. Cleaned them out on magic erasers, bought a bunch of cleaning supplies, scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed like a scrub daddy. All my son's artwork off the walls, all his pencils and marker drawings, all the scuffs. Had to clean bathrooms, had to clean toilets, had to shine up a bunch of stuff, get all the toys out of the way. I have never sweated so much from cleaning in my entire life. And I'm supposed to prep to teach for the biggest week of my professional career. So, I knock it out the park. I get my house ready. To my surprise, it looked great. I had 72 hours because pictures were scheduled Tuesday to get my house listed. So it was a Saturday, mid-Saturday. I dropped my son off. Tuesday, my house has to be ready for pictures. And Monday, I'm teaching. So, and mind you, so Tuesday comes, okay, and I get a text from my son's mother. Mind you, I had sitters lined up for the week because I knew how important this week was, right? And so there's an issue. I'm not going to get into it, but she needs to bring him home early, thus resulting in me losing my arranged sitters. They no longer wanted to take him because of exposure to said issue. So now I'm out a sitter for the week, and I have to teach this class virtually with a toddler in my house, and it's just him and me. My phone was blowing up with questions from my realtor and this and that. I still had to work my side gigs. I had to work trivia on Monday. Then on Tuesday, my son's had soccer practice. And I had a preschool meeting. I had open houses and showings. And let me just touch on showings. Anybody who has sold a house, first of all, if you have pets, I don't envy you. But if you have little ones and you're working from home and you have to draw at the drop of a hat, get your house ready to leave for a showing or an open house, it has been the most intense, crazy time of my life. And, okay, so we got through the week, right? To his credit, man, to Reese's credit, he's 3-year-old. We handled the week like some fucking gentlemen, okay? And getting through that week together, I just kept telling myself, like, if we can get through this, if I can get through this, there's nothing else that can get in our way. There's nothing else that will stop us. Like, if I can get through this week, I will prevail. And this goes back to me running. And when people ask me, how do I do it? How can I handle it all? And it's just like, it is the belief that I can do it. Therefore, I will finish. I know I'm capable of it, right? And that's what drives me, right? Unapologetic relentlessness and perseverance, right? Like, if I can get through that turbulent week so I get through that turbulent week and things begin to settle, but they didn't. So that's when I reached out to my doctor and basically got scheduled for surgery right away, right? Well, not right away. Well, I went there on a Monday. They tried to do it the very next day on Tuesday, but the hospital said no, right? So I get scheduled for surgery. And then I get a buyer for my house. Okay, so I'm thinking everything's in the clear, right? I get a buyer where I'm going to be able to close in time for my other house, and everything's going to work out, right? But this is August. This is the death month. No, it's not going to happen like that. Mind you, again, my house is 2 years old. It's not even 2 years old. And I'm not going to get into details for legal reasons and to spare you all the details, but there's an issue with part of the house, okay? And I would say it's a non-issue. I mean, it really is a non-issue, all right? Point is, it's getting fixed, right? And it's all good, right? But when I tell you this roller coaster of a ride that I have been on, it's like one day my house is sold and I'm good. Everything's in the clear. I'm going to get my new house. We're going to make this transition. Okay. The next day, everything's on fire and I don't have a house to go to. My house is no longer going to be sold. I'm back to square one. I have to get ready for more showings. And let me just tell you, it has been a nightmare, a literal nightmare that I cannot wake up from. And I wish that I could tell you that it ends here. Like I wish I could tell you that this ends here. But I'm going to bring back my TikTok again because this is the icing on the cake to my month. So if you haven't seen my TikTok by now, that I'm referencing now, through all of this, I randomly decide to take a night for myself, which I seldomly do because I don't like asking for babysitters unless I'm working. And like I can literally, I think, count on one hand how many times I've asked somebody to watch my son so I can do something like for myself. It's always for work. I like hang out with my son, so I don't like doing stuff without him. But I decided that I deserved a night out. All right. And shout out to Nana and George because they came through clutch and they said they'd keep them overnight. So, I go see a lady and I go on a little date, we had some pizza, we had some insomnia cookies, we watched a movie, like it was chill, right? It was awesome. Things get a little spicy, you know what I'm saying? I had a drink or two, you know what I'm saying? We decide to, you know what I'm saying? So after some passionate and intense, body movements, we take a little rest period, if you will, a little time out. And I go to the bathroom, check on my bag, and this is anybody's worst nightmare if you have an ostomy bag, right? This has got to be. I wear these little, well, if you're watching, you can kind of see, I wear okay, these little, I call them sex bands, okay? So it keeps everything kind of harnessed together. It gives me a little extra support, right? I actually bought them during COVID, and they're actually like those neck gaiters, right? But at the time, I was skinny enough that where it fits over my waist, and it keeps everything together, and a little less ugly for sexy time when my shirt's off, because it's also a very self-conscious thing of mine. So I removed the strap, I lift it up, and I press on the bag, and my hand becomes covered with shit. And I'm like, sweet, right? My bag gets covered with shit. Some of it falls down to the ground. It wasn't a huge mess, right? But in my head, I'm freaking out, like, oh, is it on the couch? Is it on her? Like, is it on my shirt? Is it anywhere else? And mind you, this special lady has been around my health condition for quite some time now, right? So it wasn't like a huge deal for her. Like, it wasn't like a shock thing. So luckily for me, like, that was cool. But I had to walk out of the bathroom buck naked and, be like, hey, I gotta go. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, my bag. It's broke. And bless her heart. She offered me an Elmer's glue stick, which, mind you, is not a bad suggestion, because I have some, if you know, but I almost brought my kit with me at the last minute, but I didn't. And I was looking for my paste, and it's the stuff that you can put on if you're worried that it's like, if you need extra support, or if you get like a leak or a bubble, you can put this stuff down, and it works really well. And mind you, I had ran over 4 miles that day, and I had sweated a lot. So, and then sexy time, and it was like hot outside. Yeah, it was not cool, man. It was my worst Crohn's nightmare of my life. But man, I went through it, and I can laugh about it. You have to. So I hope you can find some laughter in it. You can laugh with me. It's fine. But it's like midnight, and I got to drive home. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm spending the night in the shower. I'm spending the night in the bathtub, because I had eaten a bunch of pizza, some cookies. Like I said, I had a beer or two. And I thought for sure it was just going to be spewing out the whole night. But like always, I found a way. And so this is like how I want to end this, right? So I can get through that turbulent month, that crazy death month, right? And I've just had some time to reflect, with the running and everything. And that leads me into my closing regards of this podcast. And it's been the underlying thing that drives me, or that's driving this podcast, which, if I haven't said already, shout out to my group chat. This is dedicated to them. People are always asking me and saying to me, like, I don't know how you do it, Dom. It's amazing you keep such a positive attitude and such a positive spirit, through everything that you're going through, and you got so much going on. How do you keep up with it all and stuff? And it's two reasons. One, I know it's coming. It is the belief that I will get through all of this because I know it's coming. Everything I believe in, everything I believe that I deserve, everything that I think is coming, everything that I expect is coming. It's on its way. I believe that when I get through this turbulent time, and it's close, all of this is sharpening my tools and skill sets, and just making me, as David Goggins would say, stay hard, right? It's making me hard, right? Not in a weird way. And number two, I'm just built different, okay? Humble has never really been a part of my brand. Shout out to Joy Taylor. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time. Until next episode. This should be on YouTube. This should be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Thank you so much for listening if you got to the end. And it's just me on here, so from the bottom of my heart, if you made it to the end, if you click play, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.